where curiosity stirs conversations, taking us a step further into the future we desire. Here we bring you the issues that matter, the voices that challenge, and the insights that inspire. I'm Sules Nathaniel, and now, before we get into today's powerful conversation, let's bring you a special report on a recently signed agreement that could see the rollout of smart police stations and the full digitization of Nigeria's security architecture. We'll be right back. Government officials and security stakeholders witnessed the signing of a memorandum of understanding that could change the face of policing in Nigeria. The deal will see high-speed fiber cloud services and artificial intelligence tools deployed in a new network of smart police stations.
This innovation will give birth to police stations with smart connectivity, surveillance, automation. Now, if you remember, the head of service president talked about a paperless ministry. We're looking at a paperless Nigerian police with our ECMS. Artificial intelligence with robust cybersecurity components, among others. Smart policing means better surveillance, faster data access, improved reporting systems, and real-time coordination. By integrating secure data platforms into policing, we are enhancing effectiveness, transparency, responsiveness, and public trust in our law enforcement agency.
The smart police stations are expected to feature live surveillance cameras, electronic case management systems, and real-time data sharing platforms, all aimed at cutting response times and boosting public trust. The project supports the federal government's Renewed Hope agenda and the 2025-2028 Integrated Digital Transformation Strategy.
And I know what we will be gaining from this, our MOU signing today, is how we can foster the achievements of the Nigerian police force in digitalization. When we talked about how we want to go into police stations and not having our papers being, but you guys can come in and digitalize statement forms. We can also have a way our police stations are connected to one another.
Officials say the first phase will target security hotspots, with nationwide rollout expected to follow after pilot testing and training. If implemented on schedule, the initiative could deliver Nigeria's first smart police stations before year-end, a digital step towards safer streets and stronger communities. Welcome back. On today's episode, we'll be asking a question at the very core of our nation's soul. Disinformation, division, disillusionment. What will it take for Nigerians to trust Nigeria again? With me is a man working as an integral part of an agency that is saddled with the task of reviewing, and reweaving what is left of the nation's once perfectly knitted fabric. Mr. David Akoji is the Director of Special Duties and State Operations at the National Orientation Agency. Mr. Akoji, you're welcome to the beam.
A pleasure to be with you, Sunest.
All right, let's get right into it, because it's a very important topic, especially looking at the young people. There's that disillusionment, there's that division, the divide is there. And then the first question for me would be, how is the NOA, that's the National Orientation Agency, reorienting its citizens beyond the tribal and religious fault lines? Because we realize that these are the fault lines upon which the nation gets divided.
Okay, you see, it is a fact that we have these fault lines that you mentioned, along religious and tribal lines. But if you dig deeper, you will find that Nigerians from all divides, from religious divides, tribal divides, political divides, and so on, we have one thing in common. We all want Nigeria to win. So that's a rallying point. We want Nigeria to win. And this is more so amongst the youths. That is why you find that whenever Nigeria is in any international competition, basketball, football, handball, track and field, you find that we're all glued to our television stations, wanting to see how far Nigeria will go, wanting to see whether Nigeria would win. And at such times, we hardly, if ever, interrogate the state of origin, the religion, of any of these other factors that divide us. We hardly interrogate any of that to see whether the athlete is from my village or your village. We just want Nigeria to win. So that's what you find when you dig deeper. So you begin to ask yourself, okay, why is it that when we come back home here, we seem to be so divided along these fault lines? Some people say it's the politicians, that whenever they are seeking votes, they leverage on these divides, you understand, to get critical mass support, from their people. Even when history has shown us over time that the fact that whoever is seeking a political position, governorship or whatever, whether he's from my village or your village soonest, at the end of his tenure, we can hardly count anything much, to rejoice about. And this story is true for people who come from literally almost everywhere we have produced significant political leaders from. But somehow, they always manage to be able to deceive us into believing that our lives will become better if they are the ones that are there. This is one factor that drives this narrative around inequality, and all of that. And then again, you find many times our youth hardly travel to other parts of the country to understand the culture and people of other parts of Nigeria. My Director General would say that it is not their fault. You understand? It is not their fault to the extent that the institutional processes that we were supposed to invigorate to ensure that people have exposure to cultures and peoples of other parts of the country other than their own have not been utilized to the extent that they ought to have been. And I can give you one typical example. At the infant level, our children are glued to cartoons 24/7. Now, if you go to all of our homes, you will find that because of these cartoons that our children watch, they can tell you how New York looks. They can speak in the intonation of the Americans. Do you understand? They can tell you about the American culture, their beliefs, their value systems, and all of that, as projected in these cartoons that they are glued to 24/7. So what have National Orientation Agency done about this? Having identified this as a critical factor at that infant impressionable stage, we have gotten the Federal Executive Council to approve, amongst many other things, that 70% of cartoon content should be Nigerian. 70% of cartoon contents that are broadcast in our country, should project our content, should project our culture, should project our heroes, because we have a lot of heroes. We should project our heroes, project our culture, project our value systems. And all of these things are there. So, going forward, we are perfecting this. We would be working with National Broadcasting Commission to ensure that this happens. Now, as a practical step to actualize this, we have experimented something. On your television here, I'm sure you would have been seeing Captain Excellence from the National Orientation Agency. That's a cartoon. This is one step we have put forward to practicalize. And if you see what Captain Excellence does, he's a hero. What he does is to show children right behaviors, how to conserve electricity. You understand? So that energy is not wasted and resources are not wasted. Through Captain Excellence, we're also talking about the National Student Loan Fund, And I'm sure you'd have seen this because we sent some of those content to channels here also. That's one step we're putting forward. Now we have identified that to build national cohesion, which is ultimately the objective that we want to achieve. To build national cohesion, you don't need to just put out slogans, because slogans have lifespan. And a lot of times, in the previous attempts that we have done as National Orientation Agency, change begins with me, do the right thing, transform Nigeria, good people, great nation, all of this sloganeering were tied to a particular government in place at a time. And so when that government transited, it transited with the government, interest in it was lost. And then the other thing we observed is that the key elements of each of these campaigns were not embedded in institutions that endure. So we're solving that problem in the current period. And how we're solving it is we have also gotten Federal Executive Council approval. The National Orientation Agency has come up with what it calls the National Identity Project. For you and I to be proud of our country and to meet at a table and agree, that we are Nigerians first and foremost, we need to have a common set of character elements that we identify by, and which the rest of the world will also identify us by as our national identity. Because that is not present currently, the rest of the world is defining us by the worst amongst us. The drug traffickers, the fraudsters, and all of that. And that's why you suffer sometimes when you travel internationally and they see you with the Nigerian green passport and they begin to subject you to extra checks. And these ones who are the worst amongst us are not as many as those of us who have integrity, who are taking dignity in labor, in the things that we do, and who are very hard working, So the National Orientation Agency has designed a national identity project. The core aspect of which is the National Values Charter, the 747. And that National Values Charter will be unveiled by the President very soon.
I think that's a place we're going to take a pause right now. We're going to break. You're watching The Beam, a place where the old is reckoned with and the future is totally interrogated and power is held to purpose. This conversation is just starting. We want to know, what will it take for Nigerians to once again believe in the Nigerian dream, in Nigeria as a nation? Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, I'm in conversation with Mr. David Akoji of the National Orientation Agency, and we're probing what it would take to restore Nigerians' faith in their country. And let's continue. It's great that we've looked at the smaller ones, from the Cartoon Foundation, where you can, teach them, guide them. And let's go now to the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas, basically, the older Gen Alphas. There's something about them not trusting. Accountability is very key, to what they want. And then the question becomes, with this flood of fake news, how do they marry it together? How do they come to believe? What new tools are being availed to them to be able to say, hey, we can still trust in this nation? Perhaps, maybe, you might decipher between what the government is and what the state is, because I think you just said something along that line, where when the government moves, those slogans move. How do they separate the state from the government?
You see, this demography that you just outlined, the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas, there's one common trait, that I find runs across, this particular category of Nigerians. And they're a very important and critical component of our national population, amounting to a little over 68% of our national population. What you find is they don't like to read, and that's a problem. They don't like to read. Now, at the National Orientation Agency, we have identified this for a fact, and they are drawn more by things that glitter and are easily attractive, and I'll explain what I mean. It is for this reason that you will find that there are more followers on all social media platforms, Instagram, X, and the rest of them. There are more followers following someone like Naira Marley than you would find following Bank of Industry, where the opportunities are, or National Directorate of Employment, or Industrial Training Fund. Now, these are government institutions that have ready products that can enrich the lives of this group of people that you and I are talking about, by way of skills, by way of trainings, by way of capacity building, and the giving out of starter packs. Now, the few who are aware of opportunities in some of these institutions are outlined to you now, are distinguishing themselves and bettering their lives. But the bulk who would rather follow entertainment, you understand, than where government platforms is providing opportunities, will keep complaining. We need to find a way of changing the psyche, in this group of people. Yes, you can follow your entertainment all you like, but please also follow the social media handles of Central Bank, of Bank of Industry, of National Directorate of Employment, of Industrial Training Fund, of Nigeria Education Loan Fund, because this is where the opportunities are for citizens in this category to take benefit. Now, how are we dealing with this to bring their attention? We recognize that this group of people, Gen Alpha, Gen Z, are attracted by incentives. You don't sit back and expect that because you put in the information out there on government platforms that they will naturally go as they would for entertainment. No. You need to find ways to attract their attention to these government platforms. And so what are we doing about that? At the National Orientation Agency, periodically we are running quiz that provide airtime rewards.
All right.
That takes you to these National Orientation Agency quiz platforms, and inside of it, there are questions that are asked. 10, sometimes 15. A number of questions you answer will entitle you to automatic credit of airtime of your network. So this is providing some level of attraction. It's not as bulk, as significant as we would desire, but we have started and we're making progress, on it. The other thing we're doing is we're currently running on the big 4 television station a program we call Nigeria Happened to Me, positively, and we're taking clips of testimonials from beneficiaries of ITF, of NEL Fund, of Bank of Industry, and all these other ones that I outlined to you. Youths who have gone there, taking benefits of the various benefit platforms on offer on all these government institutions, and have made themselves better. So we're following them, putting them on record in 5 minutes documentary, which we have titled Nigeria Happens to Me, positively. And it's airing on the big 4 television stations, Channel, AIT, Arise, and TVC, every day. We're hoping that as the youth see those testimonials, it will encourage them to begin to search more, to do research, and then to check the platforms of all government institutions that offer such benefits, so that they can know how to go about it and also benefit. This will certainly, affect this situation of disillusionment, that you speak about. Everything is not perfect in our country, but our country is a lovely place, I must tell you, Sunest. I have traveled to other countries and I've seen how it happens. Sometimes if you don't travel a lot, you would want to write off your own, thinking that the grass is greener. Yeah, but an elder once told me, he said the grass is greener where you water it. So if you sit here and you see grass in your neighbor's house and it's green, it didn't become green automatically. No, somebody is tending to it. Somebody is watering it. So the grass becomes greener where you water it. And this is the mentality we want our youths, to have. That they have a role to play in building the great nation of their desires. They are young now. I was young some years back, So you are going to exit this Gen Z, Gen Alpha age, and then you'll become old, and the responsibility of this nation will be entrusted into your hands. So you cannot sit back and perfect the art of complaining. You must think, what can I also contribute? What can I do? If you're not satisfied with the political system, there are outlined ways of engaging with the system to cause a change. And there are youths who have done that and have caused change. I'm sure you are aware of Not Too Young to Run. The chaps who drove that process until it became included in our constitution, in our laws, if they had sat back and just grumbled and complained, it wouldn't have happened. They engaged, with the political system, and they caused a change.
All right. In just 2 minutes, I want you to tell us, how do 2027 is what everybody's talking about. The young people are charged right now. I mean, the atmosphere is really charged. It's funny, 2025, but 2027 we're already charged. How do we ensure that fake news and disillusionment, built up by, all these fake stories and all those things built politically? How do we ensure, from the agency perspective, that the young people are not fooled into disrupting this nation based on fake news, and all the other kind of misinformation that go around?
You see, we're engaging currently with experts in the business of debunking fake news. And what you refer to as fake news is actually disinformation,
Yes.
misinformation, and
Malinformation.
information.
Yeah,
Yes,
malformation.
So we're engaging with Center for Journalism Innovation and Development. We're also have been engaging with Center for Democracy and Development. These two institutions especially, there are others, but these two institutions especially have carved out for themselves a reputation, an outstanding reputation in the West African subcontinent as being leading fact checkers.
Okay.
So National Orientation Agency has been working with them over the years. We are still working with them. And we're pursuing what we call the National Fact-Checking Course. Inside of that National Fact-Checking Course, we aim to capacitate at least 1,000 people, young people, and professionals in each state of the Federation, including the FCT. That will come to about 37,000 people. And we've been working aggressively on this. We carry out periodic trainings where we bring in CJID as resource people, including ourselves. And we capacitate people on how to use web-based tools to debunk fake news, and how to identify fake videos, fake texts, fake pictures, taken out of a different context and put in a present context just to provoke and aggravate people to go into violence. Now, this strategy is addressing those who are already literate and have some basic form of understanding of how to use computers and these tools and everything. For the rest of Nigerians who form the bulk, we go into marketplaces, we go into communities, and what we're saying to people is, please, if you find a news that immediately provokes you, don't share it. Sit down, think about it, and then ask somebody who you think ought to know. And also watch out on television and radio if you hear the same thing. If you don't, then please delete such a message. So these are the two strategies that we're using at the moment.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. David Akodji. Thank you for sharing your insights. And for the work you guys continue to do in bridging that gap between the fragmented narrative and this nation getting that united consciousness. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right, yes, Nigeria's greatest task may no longer be the economic growth or infrastructure. It is trust. And trust must not be commanded. It has to be cultivated. And as we've heard today, the work starts with transparency, accountability, and a national story that includes all of us. That's it on The Beam today. I am Sunas Nathaniel, and we're going to be leaving you with our top 5 videos of the week. As always, we urge you to stay curious, stay informed, stay engaged, and keep beaming your light where it matters the most. May this nation continue to rise and flourish. Bye for now. Fifth on our list this week is a clip in which Nigerian airline operator Air Peace disagrees with Senator Adams Oshomole over claims of flight disruption, saying the lawmaker did not check in online.
Distinguished Senator Adams Oshomole has made several allegations, which we stand on our ground that these are false allegations, and they are probably being motivated for personal reasons for what we have seen so far.
In fourth place, we see an APC summit turned rowdy as party chieftain endorsed President Bola Tinubu, leaving Shetima aside. Coming third on our list this week, security chiefs and Governor Alier of Benue State visit Yelwata community following the killings that took place recently. In second place, a former senior special advisor to the president, Aliyu Audu, reveals why he resigned from the Tinubu-led government.
You face an uncertain future and, be certain with, an immoral today.
So what exactly has happened? What is the immorality?
Our most viewed video this week is a clip in which we see social media activist Very Darkman and other angry youths protest in Benue, demanding an end to the killings.
I saw people being maltreated, women and children crying by the roadside because they've had to flee from their communities. A woman woke up in this community, her children, 5 children and mother were lynched.
That's it on our countdown today. Join us next week for more.